Port of Duqm, Belgium, and hydrogen. How do they connect? Let's find out. Welcome. With me is Mr. Reggy Vermeulen, the CEO of Port of Duqm. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
To remind everybody, this show is in conjunction and in collaboration with the Hydrogen Green Summit that is happening between the 5th and the 7th of December at the OCEC. Please, let's get to see you there, both us and Mr. Vermeulen. Now, we are getting into the questions immediately. With natural conditions, geographic location, and market access position, are those appeals enough for the Port of Duqm to be a leading hub for handling and exporting green hydrogen globally or geopolitically? And is that enough to propel us, Oman, as a world-scale producer?
Very broad question. So obviously I think that I'm not going to focus only on Duqm first, but let's focus on Oman. A lot of studies have shown that on a world base, the two blessed area for generation of hydrogen, green hydrogen, are Chile on the one hand and Oman. Chile, you have a very high plateau, the Atacama Plateau, a bit far, and Oman you have this, not only you have the sun and the wind, but you have also the geopolitical location. And you were mentioning location. We are in Oman really in the center of all what's happening. You have Africa next door, you have India, you have Europe, and you have Asia that are in a direct area. So for that matter, the fact that we have the sun, we have the air and the wind, the space, but I'll come back to that, and the fact that we are located in such a vibrant area in the middle of it, means that we will play, as Oman in general, an important role in the hydrogen, the green hydrogen in the future.
Okay. The region, does it require hydrogen, or will we continue with the fossil fuel? And how can Oman create that push to create Port of Duqm to be that important?
I think, do we require hydrogen? No, we can live without hydrogen. Okay. We can continue
Absolutely.
forever. But the big problem is that we should not. We've seen, and we are seeing every day, the consequence of the global warming in Oman, in Europe, and around the world. And I think that it is our duty to go towards a greener world. And in a greener world, hydrogen is an element, not the only one, but is a major element in this transition and this decarbonization.
Okay, so with the hydrogen and decarbonization, if we don't have clients who are ready to prepare, how can we become a world-scale producer, and how can Port of Duqm be important? In other ways, or maybe to hydrogen? Yeah,
so clients who will have. There is, it always, when we have to adopt something, you have, or you need, a political push. And the good thing is that Europe, Japan, Korea, and to a certain extent United States are pushing towards stricter regulation on carbon. So that means that at a certain point the industry does not have the choice anymore to make a transition. That will have the ball rolling. And once it starts rolling, then that will open it to a larger audience, let's say, or larger type of industry that will start being able to afford the hydrogen, because the general production of it will go down.
So when the ball is being pushed, is it being pushed right now, or is it just trying to be pushed? Is it Sisyphus's rock, or are we kind of, the ball is in momentum moving forward?
I think that definitely the ball is in momentum now. 3 years ago it was the beginning, when we started looking at it seriously. It was really the beginning. We're in the first one, but now we as Oman and Duqm are having a hydrogen strategy. So does most of the country around the world, whether they are producer of hydrogen, like in the region or other areas, Australia or South America, or consumer of hydrogen, like Europe and Asia.
So our target here will be most likely giving stuff to Europe, and then Asia will hopefully come in and try and get what we need. But our main target is to be able to get a lot of stuff going, hopefully, to Europe.
Europe and Asia, and it's not an exclusive. Europe is quite mature now to receive it, but countries in Asia, as I was mentioning earlier, like Japan and Korea, are big company looking into it on the short term.
Potentially, there are clients who we can offset and everything like that. Now, Port of Duqm, when did it start?
So, Port of Duqm have been throughout construction in the last years, but I would say that over the last 2 years, in the actually during the COVID time, that's where the port has been completely finalized. So we can call ourselves a fully functional port. We are now installing the last ship-to-shore and let's say all the equipment that are there to handle the container. This is the last part that we needed to be called a full port. But with that in mind, what we have done over the last 2 years is set up a hydrogen strategy, a green strategy, and actually embed in our master plan, embed in the way we're going to look at the future, a significant space not only for the current carbon-related industry, but also for the green industry, and we call it actually the green molecule. Anything that will help to decarbonize, we are reserving space for it.
Congratulations for being a full port recently, first of all. And then secondly, why I asked about the story of Port of Duqm was hydrogen in mind beforehand, or did it actually come in recently? And then you've actually answered that question. So it leads me to, what is the green hydrogen power to product value chain and support infrastructure that Port of Duqm works with and has?
So a lot of people talk about the production of hydrogen and the export of hydrogen, and it's true, it's today most of the focus, but what we are seeing already now, and we believe will be a big game changer, if we go a bit back in time, Oman has started as a oil producer, has started to just export the crude oil, and then over time the
upstream,
refining,
midstream, downstream,
exactly, started, and we started to have
extra
the derivative
value.
extra value been happening in Oman. We believe that that will happen exactly in the same way for hydrogen. So now the first project that we're seeing are focusing on export, but already now, only with announced project and nothing on the ground yet, we are not producing any hydrogen. We, at least at Port of Duqm and other ports in the area, are already starting to have contact, actually deep contact, with companies that are looking to offtake the hydrogen directly in Oman and create the industry that is related to it. I'm thinking about petrochemical industry, steel industry are two big ones that are looking at setting up in Oman to be able.
Ammonia and methanol?
No, they will offtake straight away the hydrogen. Ammonia and methanol, it's used commonly because that's how we transport the hydrogen. Today, it is very difficult to transport hydrogen as the hydrogen molecule. You would have to liquefy it, which is extremely costly and high pressure and very cold. Whether you have other so-called carrier like methanol or ammonia that are easily transported and that are already transported around the world today. So that's why we talk about these two. Now, some of them can be used as bunker for fuel, for example, for ships. But what we're talking now is attracting industry that will directly offtake the hydrogen as such and use it either as a heat or as a feed for their own plant.
Okay, so in the Port of Duqm, where does it start? Does hydrogen come in from a plant in Salalah? Pipeline takes it through probably with OQ, and the pipelines have to be specifically designed for hydrogen. Then they go into a storage. This is just me with my head assuming through educated guesses. So could you tell me the process of how could that work?
We have both actually. Okay. There is a famous debate: do we move the hydrogen or do we move the electricity? Because the green hydrogen had to be done with or generated with green electricity.
Yes.
So you produce the electricity somewhere in the country, you bring the electricity towards the coast. Yes. You extract seawater, desalinize it, do the hydrolyzer, and then either use directly the hydrogen.
You can already see where the energy is going and just getting dissipated there already. Yeah.
Exactly. Or you generate the hydrogen already inland next to the generation of the electricity, and then you just pipe the hydrogen to the location where it's going to be used or exported, in this case the Port of Duqm. In Europe, for example, in Belgium, we are moving it as hydrogen just compressed. So coming back to Oman, both are feasible, both will happen, I think. But for us, the most important is to have both the availability of the hydrogen in Duqm as hydrogen and also the availability of ammonia or methanol, depending.
Thank you. We'll be heading to a little break. Just to remind you, this is in conjunction with the Green Hydrogen Summit that is happening on December the 5th to the 7th at the Oman Convention Center. Let's see you there and we can answer a lot of questions. Let's go to the break. Welcome back. My name is Fahmi Al-Ma'wali and this is The Hydrogen Story. We're doing it in collaboration with the Green Hydrogen Summit that is happening at the OCEC between the 5th and the 7th of December. Let's make sure we see you over there. We'll have plenty of people that you can ask questions to. Now, with me in the studio is Mr. Reggy Vermeulen, the CEO of Port of Duqm, and he has answered great juicy answers, and I'm still going to go and dig in. My next question is, it was said, we need to get hydrogen out of the laboratory and start using it in large-scale applications and marketable industrial solutions. How can the Port of Duqm's green strategy help with employment, entrepreneurship, research and development, and anything further?
Very large question. I think indeed the first things come to getting out of the lab. As such, the hydrogen is already in use in a lot of places as a feedstock for the petrochemical industry. So even before changing anything, we can just replace the so-called gray hydrogen with the green hydrogen and not changing anything. So there is already a first step of decarbonization, which is simply by changing what we are doing now with gray one with green one.
How big is this gray hydrogen right now? Is it massive?
It is quite big. I don't have the figures,
okay.
But
So right
it's
now,
several times what we're going to produce.
There's a lot of room for space for green hydrogen where there's profitability
yes.
can come in. Okay.
So there's a lot of space just where we're using it today, without changing even our habit.
Right.
So that's the first stage. Then we will continue to build on it. And when you're saying going out of the lab, what we're saying by that is using it in areas that is not used today.
Yes.
Which is the most important. We're talking about mobility.
All
we're
the
talking
theoretical areas. Yeah.
Yes, you're totally right. What you just mentioned about the places where we use it is where we have to start using it by changing the fuel we're putting in our cars, the fuel we're putting in our airplanes, and so on. But I think your question was more, how is it going to impact the day-to-day life of the Omanis in terms of job opportunities, entrepreneurship, and so on. Two areas. First, what we'll call the upstream. So, as for the gas, or the oil, we are extracting it from the ground. We'll have to produce the hydrogen. In this case, there's a lot of industry that are around it. We want to attract in Oman the production of solar panel. We want to attract the production of windmills and blades. But even once they are set up and they are installed, there's a big industry of maintaining these solar panels, cleaning them, upgrading them, changing them. Same for the windmills. So these are things that does not exist yet. They are semi to high qualified personnel that needs to do that. So this is an area that where we see a lot of things, and R&D still have to happen there. On the production itself, this is a bit like a refinery. It needs to be maintained and manned and used. And all the downstream part. The downstream part is one where it's used already. In a refinery, for example, we use hydrogen, and we'll have to supply the already existing Omani refinery grease with green hydrogen. But more than that, there are a lot of areas, like for example, I was mentioning earlier, the steel industry. The steel need a lot of heat. Heat can be obtained by using hydrogen instead of using natural gas. So these areas will allow us to replace it, and thanks to the fact that green hydrogen will be available in Oman, it will attract these industries in Oman. So more industries will generate more employment, will generate more supporting industry, and that's how the ball will be running, hopefully in the short term.
So the attractive nature of Oman will hopefully get more companies, which will add hopefully a solution in the employment and entrepreneurship and skill transfer and skill development?
Yes, I think it's a completely new set of skills that does not exist.
Yes.
Not only in Oman, on a worldwide basis.
Just the solar and the thing require a lot of skill development.
That part, the part on the hydrogen, the part on how to use the hydrogen in already existing industries. So all that will attract new talent, will attract change of exchange of information, of skills, and that's something that we see very interesting and profitable for Oman in the future.
So what would, as Port of Duqm, as future line of laborers that, or workers that might come in, what would you say about them to prepare themselves? How could they to prepare themselves for hopefully large job opportunities?
I think the most important is to see, again, where it is used already now, but that's quite easy. But reading on what are all the alternatives or all the areas where today a fossil fuel is used and tomorrow hydrogen will be used. And to start specializing in these areas.
Yes.
And doing some research and getting ready, doing studies that will that will prepare the youngster into that. For example, the ships in the future will be powered by either ammonia or maybe one day directly by hydrogen. We want in Oman to be a hub to fuel the ships in the future.
Absolutely.
To fuel the green ship in the future. So these are all things that just does not exist today.
There's a lot of room. I hope that galvanizes you to be able to get as much information as possible and prepare the mind and your skills towards that. Great. Now, automation, could that come in and ruin things, or is that better for us?
No, that's a very general question.
Yes, it is.
For us, there are a lot of studies that would tend to go against the fact that automation means less employment.
Yeah.
That's not what we see. Automation means other type of employment.
Yes.
Instead of having someone that is screwing,
I totally agree.
screw the whole day long, you will have a robot doing.
Yeah.
But who's going to maintain the robot?
Absolutely.
These are highly skilled people. So for me, it's a chance more than a threat.
I'm with you. Thank you for that perception and insight. In addition to your cap as the CEO of Duqm, you also are the Honorary Consul of the Kingdom of Belgium to the Sultanate of Oman. Great role. We've had the Belgian royals come in a while ago to open one of the projects in the port of Duqm. Could you tell us more about that? Why is Belgium involved in Oman's hydrogen story?
So, indeed, we had the chance to have the visit of Their Majesties the King and the Queen of the Belgians, and actually they came, amongst others, to inaugurate the port of Duqm, which was a great honor for us. The other part of their visit was the hydrogen. In Belgium, we are a small country, but actually we are responsible for the distribution of more than 15% of all the energy in Europe. Why? Because we have a very big gas hub in Belgium. From there we are feeding north of France, south of the Netherlands and a part of Germany, amongst, in addition to our own industry. So strong of that, nearly 2 years ago, Oman and Belgium have signed an MOU on collaborating on hydrogen, ahead of the curve, ahead of a lot of collaboration that happened. And the idea is for Oman on the producing side and Belgium on the receiving side for two parts. We are the second largest petrochemical cluster in the world after Houston in Antwerp. And so we are, because of that, we are the largest emitter of CO gas in Europe, as that cluster emits a huge of CO. So even for our own consumption and our own decarbonization, we are looking for a partner to generate and have hydrogen. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, Belgium is also not only distributing for itself, but also distributing for the neighboring country. Today gas, tomorrow hydrogen. So the idea is that the two countries work together in making sure that the green hydrogen that will be produced in Oman can reach the European market via an existing platform, which is Belgium, be distributed and also be certified. Because the big challenge in Europe, because of all the rules that they are putting with a decarbonization objective, is how to make sure that any product in the future as decarbonized as possible. Energy be one. So we need to make sure that the hydrogen, the so-called green hydrogen that will be produced in Oman, will meet the requirement of Europe.
Wow.
And that's the chance, because Oman is on the forefront today of the generation of hydrogen, we want to make sure that Europe, Belgium in this case, but Europe in general, collaborates to and with Oman in setting up what does it mean to produce green hydrogen, including not only the production but the transport to Europe, the distribution, and together the two countries and the rest of Europe will be able to move forward for that.
It's a fantastic mutual relationship is what I can see in developing, promoting and collaboration and production of hydrogen for the future that will benefit both sides. And the Majesty's Royals coming to Oman is a great legitimacy for this project, which is great. Right, a lot of questions earlier on, we felt like a lot of the businesses are going to be B2B. When does it become B2C to the consumers? How far can that happen? Or how close?
It's an excellent question. I think it will all depend on how much the world can produce of green hydrogen. As I mentioned earlier, already today, just by replacing molecule for molecule, grey hydrogen by green hydrogen, you can produce multiple times what are the first project of Oman. So I think that we as consumer will see it effective when we'll start being able to fuel our cars with hydrogen or derivative. So for me, you will have first the replacement, you will have the heating part, the industrial part. So it will remain a B2B market for quite some time, actually, I would say tens of years, before it goes to the consumer. And that does not mean that it will not go indirectly, because we will have green steel that will buy our car made of green steel.
Understood.
We'll have the electricity in the future potentially will be generated out of hydrogen that will be used for that. So I think that we will be green, but I think before us really using in our day-to-day life green hydrogen, it's quite down the road.
I love what you just mentioned, me seeing opportunities in there as an R&D where entrepreneurs can actually find ways and help ease the future into getting towards hydrogen, which is great. So we're reaching towards the end of the show, and because we're part of the Green Hydrogen Summit, I'd like to ask you, how integral is the Green Hydrogen Summit to the awareness of clean fuel and progress on Omani hydrogen ventures, and possibly to the Port of Duqm?
It's essential. The more we talk about it, the more we educate people, the more we make it mainstream, the fastest it will come in the industry, the fastest it will be accepted by the banks, by the industry. So I definitely salute that. I think that, and I hope in the near future that Oman not only will play a leading role, but will play a main role and a driving role in the production area of Oman. There is a sense of urgency. Neighboring countries are also having very aggressive goals.
Yes.
So I hope that the advantage that we have, the forefront that we have for the moment stays. And I think only with a summit like these ones can we continue to advertise it and attract projects here rather than other areas in the world, and make sure that not only we have been there at the beginning, but we solidify our leadership, and we make it sustainable for the future.
Fantastic. I usually ask this question to everybody at the end of the show. Take yourself into the future. It's the year 2050 when it's supposed to be net zero, and you are then right now. How do you think you've done so far? And how has Port of Duqm done so far?
Well, I have children, and I owe them to be active and to make something for my future. So if I see it positively, I will look back and say, okay, I did something to help bring hydrogen mainstream and therefore decarbonize our industry. Wow. So I hope to be very proud of myself in a couple of years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reggy Vermeulen, the CEO of Port of Duqm and the Honorary Consul for the Kingdom of Belgium at the Sultanate of Oman. Thank you very much. My name is Fahmi Al-Ma'wali. Please, let's get to see you at the Hydrogen Green Summit that's happening between the 5th to the 7th of December at the Oman Convention Center. Till then, take care.